draft. I do have the sin counter going for this matchup between both of these teams. I'm excited to see what they can bring out. As we saw earlier this week, Sync Universe just had an absolute great match against Serial Enters, really showcasing what they have brought to this Discord and to this tournament. They're a group of really solid players. I'm excited to see what they pull out during this series. That being said, big question marks for the side of Terminal Hairlines. We really don't know what this team is capable of. We're not really sure where they're going to fall in the standings. And that's the best part about week one. You really get to see where people should be placing. So far, looking at the bans, fairly standard in the current meta. A lot of these champions are really strong right now, and we're just making sure that a lot of these options are taken off the board. On the side of Terminal Hairlines, really targeting mid lane with the Ari and Syndra bans. These are champions that Sync Universe really likes to pull out. Let's see, and the Anivia first pick, quite interesting coming out for the side of Terminal Hairlines. I do know that across multiple regions, they do flex pick Anivia, both as a support, a mid, and a top lane, although the top lane is probably the least seen. I do expect this to be a mid Anivia. It's very rare that Anivia will be picked this early on when you plan on throwing it into the support role. But the Xerath is answered immediately. That is a great pick into the Anivia. You're able to outrange and stay away from the ults and the wall, so you really don't have too much of a risk. That being said, if Xerath ever steps forward and does get trapped behind that wall into the Anivia ult, it does create a lot of damage that is hard to avoid. You're pretty much going to be forced to burn flash, assuming you have it. If you don't and the jungler's there, you're most certainly dead. So just going to be a game of positioning in that mid lane. I would assume we're going to see a AD carry pick, and we are. So the Jinx is picked for the side of Sync Universe. There are quite a few answers. Caitlyn's still on the board. Ashe is still up. Seraphine's on the board. I wonder if they're going to go do an Ashe-Seraphine combo against the Jinx. It would be good against Jinx and Xerath. And both champions, like I said, are not banned. So Terminal Hairlines is probably we're gonna have to see what they end up doing here. For those of you who might be confused from the logos in the bottom, that's just a sin counter. It does not actually correlate with the sides that the teams are on. Currently, Terminal Hairlines is on blue side. Sync Universe is on red side. Terminal Hairlines grabbing the Jarvan. A very good hard engaged jungler, very solid against both Xerath and Jinx because they have no real escape tools outside of their summoners to get away from the Jarvan knockup and ultimate combos. Combined with the Anivia is just a great setup. Really easy to gank these lanes, and the Ashe does end up coming out for the side of Terminal Hairline. So the question is, does Sync Universe play something cheeky and grab the Seraphine, although it, in my opinion, really wouldn't be that good with the Jinx, paired with the Jinx. It's fine on its own. It's a strong support, but I wonder if they're going to pick something that's just good into the Seraphine, or if they're just going to end up banning it. I would expect they're most likely either going to pick it or ban it here, and if they don't, that's just very curious. Okay, so the Sylas pick. Interesting. So looking like it could be a Sylas top or jungle. That being said, Sylas support is a thing, and it can do a lot of burst damage when put into the right hands. It's just not very common right now. The Poppy ban comes out from Terminal Hairlines, which is pretty interesting. I wonder if they are picking the Sylas as a way to counter Seraphine by virtue of just taking the ultimate, and it gives your bot lane a lot of that power as well. It seems a little clunky to me. I'm not really sure if that is the plan here, but it could work. I feel like on paper, Sylas should be able to do pretty good in all a dive into the Seraphine, but if Seraphine ults at the right time, it could be absolutely disastrous. Mbesa ban for the side of Terminal Hairlines, so they must know that their top laner loves to play the Mbesa, and there it is. The Seraphine does end up getting banned in ban 5, so we're not going to see any of the Ashe Seraphine shenanigans this game, and then the Thresh. So they really, on the side of Terminal Hairlines, really don't believe that the Sylas is anywhere but that top or jungle role, and they go ahead and ban the Thresh as well. So I'm feeling like some disengage might be needed for this Jinx to help against the Jarvan and Ashe. And Leona does offer a lot of disengage, a lot of peel, a lot of CC, and also a great engager as well. She really has tools, both kind of kits built into that champion. She can be a strong engager. She can also kite and peel for the AD carry quite well, and not only that, but also the Jinx. Terminal Hairlines looking to elect their mid laner, their support and top laner at this point. And they grab the Shen. Shen is just a very strong laner in this current patch. All around, just a strong champion. Provides a lot of peel for the Ashe. The global ultimate makes it so that you're always able to join the fight. But you can remain in the side lanes as long as possible. It's going to always push and force Sync Universe into those side lanes. And wow, okay, a Gnar, which tells me that it's either going to be a Shen or it's going to be a Shen support, I would imagine. Anivia mid, Gnar top. Shen support, not very common, but I would think it's not too bad into the Leona Jinx matchup. It almost seems like a secondary Poppy in that way, where, Poppy support is great into Leona. Shen seems like the next iteration of that. And then Sync Universe goes ahead and grabs the Malphite. And here we go. So, the end of week 1 for the Overclock Division. We've been waiting to see it. Sync Universe makes their return against Terminal Hairlines, a team who is making their debut. We've got Choupette. Choupette? I'm going with Choupette. That's better. That also makes it so that there's 2 Frenchmen in this team, in La Chafous and Choupette. Zones in the AD carry position. Professor Hex up there in the mid lane. Chubb at jungle. Hermie in the top side playing Gnar against Empyrean Fish on the Malphite. Spammer on Silas in the jungle, confirming that's where that will be played. Knight in the mid lane. Mateo on Jinx. And like I said, Chafous in the support position there on Leono. Had an interview with Chafous last week. It was an awesome interview, or earlier this week, rather. If you didn't see it, I fully recommend going back and watching it. He is a heartwarming gentleman, to say the least. Really fun to talk to, and really has me enjoying the fact that teams like this have joined our league. Some early aggression onto Choupette, but he's just going to be able to walk away there. A lot of people may not know this about Sync Universe. They are a team that has some coaches, some multiple, I guess you could say, staff, quote-unquote, members. They have teams in other esports. This is a organization that's probably been around the longest out of all the teams in the TLS. Chubb making an early rotation down at the bot side, and it has not been spotted out yet by Sync Universe. But I think he's going to avoid it and go into the bot jungle, and he does. So Jarvan and Silas may be having some engagement here soon. Spammer, none the wiser. I do not think he's noticed at this point. I'm going to go ahead and actually control camera here. This is much more interesting. So Spammer at this point does see that Chubb has gone into the jungle and is trying to take his frog. Chafous looking like he wants to engage. The Spammer is eventually going to smite it. So that is overall a win for the jungler on the side of Sync Universe. But Chubb, Choupette, and Professor Hex are looking like they want to contest this blue buff. And Spammer is just going to handshake it, give it away to Chubb, and say, okay, I'm just going to go ahead and roam and take your top side. So the question becomes, does Chubb try and counter and kick off Spammer from taking that blue buff, or is he just going to settle for the Krug, or the Scuttle rather, and then go back? So Spammer is immediately going to take the other Scuttle, and it looks like he does want to get some kind of vision or control over the blue buff. Let's go ahead and watch this over here. Chubb goes ahead and dives at the wall. That may have been a mistake. He does not know that Knight is right there in the wings. So Spammer and Knight doing a lot of damage and forcing Chubb to flash out. But Professor Hex is here, and so is Hermie. This is now starting to look like a turn on to Knight, who has to flash away. They're able to pop the Anivia bubble, or the egg rather, and do a lot of damage. Chubb has to be careful here, but he's able to dash out. Professor Hex is going to get killed immediately, and Empyrean Fish getting the first blood. A nice rotation by the side of Sync Universe. Great play, great heads-up play by Knight and Empyrean Fish to rotate effectively. Chubb ending up taking way too much damage there. And not only is he going to lose the blue buff, but he's also going to lose the wolves as well, and possibly the Krug. His bot camps are respawning at this point, so it should be a trade of camps. I believe that Chubb is probably going to have to go back after these Krugs here, and make his way into the bot side of Sync Universe's jungle. But yeah, great overall play by Sync Universe. Great team coordination, and the first blood goes the way of Empyrean Fish. So that's going to help him get those items that he's necessarily in need of. And he does elect to get the Lost Chapter first, so it doesn't indicate he's going for more of a damage-heavy build. Meanwhile, in the mid lane, Shafus makes a great rotation and ends up getting Professor Hex with his long-range snare. And he ends up falling to Knight. So Knight now in a lead, and a great play by Shafus rotating up there to the mid lane, taking a great advantage of Professor Hex not having his summoners. And Knight now going to go up nearly 2 waves of EXP and CS because of it. But like I was saying in the top side, Malphite went ahead and dropped the Last Chapter, so this is going to help with poking the Gnar down so that he can't just auto-attack him over and over again. Meanwhile, on the bot side, Shafus does get jumped on by Choupette, but it's not going to really result in anything. Chubb is in the wings here. He looks like he does want to do some damage. We've got Choupette taunting in. He does end up grabbing Shafus. Shafus takes an Ignite to the face. Ends up turning around onto Chubb, who just sidesteps the knockup. It's not going to be enough. Zones ends up getting the kill on Shafus, but they have to back off. Spammer is here, and he's going to take advantage of the overstep by Chubb and ends up getting a kill for himself. Xerath uses the ultimate as well, but not a lot of the beams end up hitting, or the charges rather. So it is going to end up being a 1-for-1. And at the end of the day, if you're on the side of Sync Universe, you're more than happy with that trade. Chubb ends up falling there, which means that this is going to be a free dragon going over the side of Sync Universe, and their dragon stacking starts early. Empyrean Fish is taking a lot of damage here. This is kind of crazy. He does have his ultimate to get out if he needs to, so that's a good thing. Knight lands a nice stun on Professor Hex. Shafus is here just to push out the wave, probably to get a nice reset. Starting items for every single person, or every single player on the Rift, seem pretty regular. No Doran's, was it Doran's Longbow? Doran Crossbow? None of those picked so far. I think as of right now, the champions you'll see it on most is usually 80 mids. I know that Yone makes very... he's very good with the new item. The Doran's item, that is. So not too much is going to go on right now. First Dragon, like I said, going over to the side of Sync Universe. They're more than happy to wait this game out. Jinx and Xerath and Silas, all pretty good scalers in their own right. Malphite is going to end up doing tons of damage if he keeps going down this AP build track, which I feel like he might. He is getting the Steel class boots. So he is going to have some extra armor to repel against Hermie and Chubb, especially Herbie's auto attacks on that top side. But Empyrean, now that he's got some levels and some items, seems to be winning that poke war. I don't know if Hermie sees Spammer in the woodwork. Now that he's got the Gnar ultimate, he should be able to throw him into the wall. And this is just looking horrible for Hermie, who didn't see Spammer sitting nearby in that top river. An excellent positioning by him to get another kill on Empyrean. 2-0 on this Malphite. He's going to be an absolute terror if he gets some more of these damage items. Zone's taking some pester damage, but they don't know that Chubb is in the woodwork. Chubb goes ahead and gets on top of Shafus, who should fall here shortly thereafter. Mateo's trying to do what he can to return onto Chubb, but it's just not enough. And Zone's getting another kill. So 2 of his own. So the bot lane of Terminal Hairlines looking very good. Professor Hex is in a really bad position here. If he gets hit by the Q, he shouldn't fall here. I don't think Knight has the amount of damage that he's going to need to actually kill a Nivea in the egg form, and he doesn't. But popping the egg is always really good. You've got your jungler, you've got a Malphite who could roam down to the mid lane if need be. And without the egg, of course, Anivia is just a little bit more helpless to any ganks. So far in the jungle, farm is looking like a slight lead over to Spammer, who also does have a small bounty for himself, 150 gold, attributed to some of those earlier ganks and the kill that he has on himself, as well as the farm lead. So really a good game so far for Spammer. And he does end up getting the Hextech Rocket Belt. Hermie going in for just some pester damage to keep Empyrean off this wave. That is so crazy. Empyrean took so much damage, was locked up for so long, and yet the trade was like almost even. Although Hermie does land a nice boulder toss onto him. So Empyrean is looking pretty low, only has about 500 HP, but does have the passive shield that comes back up. Professor Hex needs to be careful here. Spammer is lurching in the woodwork again, and let's see if he can land that stun, and he doesn't. Hex with a nice flash to avoid it, but now Anivia has no egg and no flash, so he's going to be a target for Spammer and Shafus, I would imagine, for the next 2 minutes for sure. Meanwhile, on the bot side, Choupette feeling a little bit stronger than he was previously, does elect to build a lot more ability haste just so he can always have the taunt up. The invulnerability from the auto attacks is really strong into melee matchups as well. Hermie, using his vision well, knows where Spammer is, and Spammer likely is called out by the side of Terminal Hairlines. They're aware of the jungler being in the top side. And Dragon up in 30 seconds. So the question is, what team is going to be rotating first? Chubb is looking like he wants to cause some problems for the side of the Sync Universe bot lane. And meanwhile, on the top side, Empyrean Fish does take a lot of damage. Gets up throwing into the wall, and he has to use his ultimate to get out of there. Chubb is probably just going to sit here, but they don't know that Spammer is also on the way. So Choupette. Let's go with Choupette. Choupette has to end up backing off, and now it's looking like a slight advantage in this lane for the side of Sync Universe. Shafus using his ultimate and forcing zones to actually flash out, so Flash is now down on the side of Ashe. So that actually ends up being a really good set of events for the side of Sync Universe, who's just going to go immediately back to this mid wave and try to take out Professor Hex before this before this dragon starts, and that actually ends up bowling Choupette's ultimate on the Shen. So a great set of events by the side of Sync Universe is most certainly going to net them the second dragon. Chubb is waiting, trying to get some kind of advantage here, but doesn't know that he was just sitting on a ward the whole time. Meanwhile, Choupette is going to get jumped on by Shafus. Spammer ends up taking away the Jarvan ultimate, jumping on Chubb, who dies soon thereafter, but Choupette and Zones are trying to return some damage. Zone does a lot of damage on Mateo, ends up getting the double kill, and Hermie is down here now to try to get something onto Spammer or onto Knight. Either one is probably going to fall, and that does end up being Knight, who falls soon thereafter. A shutdown over to Hermie, what started off like a great play by the side of Sync Universe, ends up turning on its head, and Terminal Hairlines, for the first time this game, does an awesome series of plays and gets a few kills of their own. But no dragon is going to fall by virtue of Chubb falling during that fight. So it looks like we may have another one of those scraps here soon. It just really depends who is electing to take control first. But Hex being in this top side is quite confusing because now he has to actually run without that TP. Oh, he has TP. So, he's going to run towards the mid lane, probably catch that wave eventually. But it looks like Sync Universe is pulling the trigger, and they're going to be on the dragon first. So Shafus is going to clear out this ward, but Terminal Hairlines is aware that this is the play being made, and it looks like they might just give it up. They feel like they don't have the positioning, and the dragon's going to fall before anyone can even get over there. So second dragon does end up going to Sync Universe. Good play on their end, but Terminal Hairlines definitely showing that they're made of some stronger material than just paper mache. Chubb ends up going in. I wonder if he did not know how many members were actually in that bush on the river, and it ends up dying for it. So Yeah, didn't really make too much sense there why he would be running that direction. And now Spammer is going to get another kill as well because this Anivia egg is gonna be popped and not gonna resurrect in time. And they're actually gonna end up getting the kill over to Knight. So Knight's gonna go way up in this matchup. Anivia, rough game for Professor Hex, who falls down to 0-4. Mateo, good use of the cleanse to try and get away from the Ashe, but Ashe does have these slowing capabilities, and Mateo is barely alive. I thought that surely Shupei would somehow magically dash forward to get the kill, but this is not old Shen. There are no longer any ranged abilities or ranged Qs. Shout out to my boy Austin, who's probably watching right now. A Shen main back in the day in early 2015. He would just spam Q in every single matchup. And it was absolutely abysmal to play against. Meanwhile, it's looking like Terminal Hairlines is looking to make a play onto this Rift Herald. They're taking some early objective control, getting some vision. Professor Hex looking like he might be out of position, though. He's got to be really careful. Knight is looking like he wants to get a lot of damage down, but Shafus is the only ally in the area able to do anything. Knight is looking like he's doing some damage. Professor Hex just immediately gets cooked there in the mid lane. I can see in the chat that there was a pause of some kind. I wonder if that happens in the future or if that already happened and the delay gets rid of the pause. But I do not know what happened there. Professor Hex looked like he just took too much damage in that mid lane and just ends up falling for virtually no reason. And because of that, the Rift Herald ends up going over to the side of Sync Universe. And meanwhile, on the bot side, it looks like Chubb is trying to make a play onto the Jinx, but the Jinx is well aware of it, ends up running away. And now Chubb uses the ultimate, but Mateo is just going to go and flash out. Now he might actually be dead here. And he is. Knight with the alley-oop there to get the kill onto Chubb. Chubb is having a rough game as well, trying to get whatever advantage he can, but they're just losing all of the objectives. And Sync Universe is just looking so solid this game. They're really playing to their own advantages. And they really aren't giving any opportunities besides the one we saw earlier in that bot river. Over to the side of Terminal Hairlines. Shupei is looking like he wants to dash onto Mateo and does end up getting the taunt. Let's see if they can do anything with it. He does get ignited, but he's going to live with just barely any health, practically 80 HP. Shafus is looking like he's going to fall here to the Ashe, and he eventually does, but who's here? It's Spammer with a 3-man ultimate, looking so good, but Zones is trying to do what he can to get out of this situation. Empyrean's here as well. So this is going to be a dead Ashe if I ever saw one. Spammer jumps right on top of him. He's going to fall here soon after. But the ultimate comes through from Shupei, and it just doesn't matter. Spammer dodges back over the wall and goes back in for the double kill. And Hermie and Chubb have to run away. A great rotation by the side of Sync Universe that just always seem to be one step up on Terminal Hairlines, and just a good set of events for them. They're going to walk away with multiple kills, 3 kills for 1. The support, Shafus being the only one that falls, but you'll take that any day of the week. Meanwhile, on the mid lane, Spammer's going to take this Rift Herald and take down the mid tower. Let's see if he gets another charge out of it. Chubb ends up smiting the Rift Herald, so going to get the EXP and gold from that, and also stops the the second charge rather. Looks like he wants to get a slam into the wall. Knight goes ahead and trades flashes there, just barely. So a great play by him. Is he going to end up getting this kill? He has one more. Oh, and he just barely jumps out of it. So Hermie, with the fancy feet, just barely able to get out of that situation. But Knight doing some good damage there. Professor Hex has opted into this top lane against Superior Fish. He's probably going to have a better time into that lane just by virtue of being able to stay away from Empyrean's poke. You drop the ultimate, you kind of just back off. Empyrean can't walk forward. So by virtue of that, never really gets to land the Q unless he does this and clears the entire minion wave. And now he's going to try to do something, but a nice wall place there by Professor Hex keeps him from pursuing that engagement. Meanwhile, on the bot side, there is a fight right now going over the third Dragon Soul of the third dragon of the game. A quick shutdown by Hermie, but is quickly replaced by Mateo, who gets a shutdown of his own and is now chasing down zones. Shafus needs to be careful here. Ends up backing off, and that's a double kill over to Mateo, which is going to be a third dragon going over to Sync Universe. They'll take that trade for that top tower, no problem. And they're on Dragon Point, or Soul Point. So, great sum of events by the side of Sync Universe. Ends up getting multiple kills. It did look like a great engage by the side of Terminal Hairlines there to begin with. I actually want to see if we can check out that replay really quickly. And so we'll start here. Hermie, with immediate two-man ultimate, does end up getting the shutdown onto Knight, but is quickly followed up by Spammer stealing Chubb's ultimate. And with that ultimate, with that Jarvan ultimate, is able to net Mateo 2 kills of his own. Zones ends up falling shortly thereafter, just takes too much damage from Mateo during the beginning and course of that fight, and Choupette has to end up running away. And the dragon does end up going over to the way of Sync Universe. So we're back into current time. Sync Universe looking like they want to push their advantage and position towards this top side. Maybe dive the Anivia and get that top tower. But Choupette is in the top jungle trying to get some vision of his own and ends up getting pushed back. So now I want everyone to look at the vision control that Sync Universe has placed down. They have full vision control of this top side and they are pinging this Baron. If anyone has been watching Pro League of Legends, any leagues really, whether that's the LEC, LCS, LCK, LPL, you would know that Baron can be a bit of a mistake to go for in this patch. He's trying to do some damage onto zones. So it could be a bit of a mistake on this patch because it baits you into a false sense of security. It doesn't really give you that much gold anymore. And so what ends up happening is teams take a lot of damage and then end up dying on the Baron, and it just completely flips the game on its head. Chubb and Choupette do look like they're trying to get some damage onto him, but Chubb ends up getting caught out and is going to get jumped on immediately by Spammer, who ends up falling. So this should be a free Baron over to the side of Sync Universe. They end up pursuing this though, and they're immediately going to follow it up with another kill onto Zones. And now with Zones dead, they really only have one damage dealer on the side of Terminal Hairlines. That's Professor Hex. But the triple kill comes up for Spammer, and that's going to be an easy Baron take. So it seemed like not enough commitment or not enough organization on the side of Terminal Hairlines. And a great call. I don't know who would have made that call on the side of Sync Universe, but they end up just immediately turning and jumping onto Chubb. And they do the exact same thing once again onto Professor Hex. And yeah, in these moments, you cannot just be walking up to Baron. There's no reason to do that. Even if all of them are, half health, you are just going to die if the team just decides to collectively turn on you. And it seemed like, just a great play, a great call by the side of Sync Universe to immediately turn on to Chubb. They end up getting him killed or killing him. And because their diver, their frontliner is pretty much dead, they just turn immediately onto Zones, who's also just kind of waiting by out of position. They end up getting a kill onto him as well. Mateo and Knight using both their ultimates to try to get a kill onto Zones, but he's able to happy feet his way out of there. But like I was saying, just some great calls by the side of Sync Universe, ends up netting them the Baron and a few kills. So now, looking very, very good, very strong at a 6k gold lead, nearly 7k gold lead. And at this point, we could start talking about what Terminal Hairlines really needs to do to start coming back into this game. And in my mind, you have to play entirely around zones. This is your only champion on your team that really has some gold built up. But that being said, Professor Hex is getting dove here by Spammer and Knight. Oh, poor guy. Leave the man alone. He's just trying to flap his wings in peace. Spammer being where he needs to be at the correct time. They know that Professor Hex has no egg and therefore is pretty vulnerable to any sort of gank, especially when you're playing against a long-range mid laner like Knight, who doesn't ever have to be in fear of taking tower damage. That being said, Shafus and Zones trying to do something here. I mean, Choupette and Zones trying to do something here. Shafus is going to be the target of a lot of this damage. But Knight is here for some return And now Chubb is the one that has to actually run away. But Empyrean Fish is here with an Malphite ultimate, trying to get something onto Chubb. And he is going to end up falling and uses his ultimate at the same time. So ultimate is down for Jarvan. Not that that's a big deal, but Hermie gets an excellent 3-man stun onto the side of Sync Universe. But it might be just a little too late as Spammer ends up diving in and gets 2 kills of his own. And this might be the game, folks. Just an excellent team fight by the side of Sync Universe. A great last-minute play and attempt there by Hermie to try and get the entire team almost slammed against that wall, trying to get some kind of combo moving, but they just don't have the items, they don't have the money, and they just get slapped in the face by the wallet of Sync Universe, who's going to start out this series 1-0. What an excellent first game by them, and really showing what they're made of. 700 gold bounty on that Malphite, 700 gold bounty on Terminal Hairlines on the blue side, Sync Universe on the red side, getting the bans started. A lot of the same bans that we saw during the first set. Lilia banned out. Terminal Hairlines does not want to play against spammers. Lilia, it is quite frightening. I believe it was like 21-0 the last time we saw it. It could have been less, maybe like 18-0. It was absolutely disgusting. It was like 10,000 gold. A 10,000 gold lead on that champion alone. That was probably Spammer's best game of the series so far, or league so far. Philios, Rumble, Viego bans for the side of Sync Universe. So pretty standard, same bans as last game. Actually, I think it's all the same bans. I think Terminal may have had 2 mid laner bans. I think they banned Ahri and Syndra last game. Maybe I'm wrong there, but not too sure why. But for some reason, as you guys can probably see, the drafter's bugged out. Xin Zhao is up here in the top left corner. So that's going to be the first pick for the side of Terminal Hairlines. I like it. I like Xin Zhao. I like Xin Zhao as a first pick. I think it's a really strong jungler in the current patch. Pantheon being grabbed out by the side of Sync Universe. So pretty standard response so far. I have heard rumors, and someone could tell me if I'm wrong, that Xin Zhao is a good top laner this season. I've heard this, that LEC teams are practicing it in solo queue. So if anyone's tried it out and knows that it's good, please tell me. Sivir as the first pick on the side of Sync Universe. Very safe first pick. Also indicates that you're really playing for that late game scaling. Plenty of options to play into it on the side of Terminal Hairlines. One of them being Caitlyn is not too bad, although the trap is pretty cursed, being that Sivir can just walk over your trap, never gets called by it. But the Smolder, so some scaling of their own to answer back on the side of Terminal Hairlines. I like this. I like answering scaling with scaling. It really guarantees that you have an answer to these picks going into the late game. And Sivir, by virtue of the champion kit, is not really scary to play against this Smolder. You have you don't really have a lot of kill pressure as the Sivir until you get some items. You have the threat of being poked out of your lane, but Smolder is going to love playing with a Braum into that lane as well. Braum, a great pick into the Sivir, and then an Ahri being picked for Sync Universe. So holding off their support pick for as long as possible can be a pretty good strategy. I just don't really understand why they picked Ahri unless they just didn't want it to be banned. Ahri's a great first pick, so no draft sins committed either way. I'm just curious what they have planned for the support pick. That being said, they could pivot the Pantheon into the support role, right? Maybe you don't grab the support because you want to create the illusion that Pantheon could be going into that bot lane. And it makes that pick just a little bit safer, but we really won't know until we see the last 2 picks. Pantheon into Braum seems pretty bad. Maybe I'm wrong about that. I just feel like Braum negates a lot of the damage that he can throw out. I would imagine that Braum blocks the Q damage, no? If it's the melee version, the empowered melee version of the Pantheon Q. If Braum shields, to me that seems like it would block a lot of the damage, but maybe it doesn't. Maybe because it counts as a melee strike. I don't really know. I thought it was directional though for the Braum shield, so interesting. If that is the matchup, we'll have to wait and see. The Karma ban for the side of Terminal Hairline. So they fully expect the Pantheon to go anywhere else but support. Meanwhile, on the side of Sync Universe, they ban pretty standard pretty standardly. Ban Victor, so you get rid of that really safe mid lane pick. You know, a good answer into the Ahri. You get rid of that. Get rid of the orange so that there's not extra scaling to help out the Smolder. I like that as well. But this also indicates that Sync Universe fully expects Shinja to go jungle, which obviously we think it will. But like I said, there is talks about Shinja top. That'd be so cool if they end up flinging it up topside if it has a good matchup. The Milio pick coming out for Sivir, so pretty much guarantees the Sivir Milio bot lane. And that's also a really good lane. It's a great lane into Braum. You have free scaling essentially on both sides, but I actually do give the match slight lead over to the Milio. That you do end up getting a lot more poke onto the Smolder so long as you dodge that W, just because of the boomerang shots. And then Millie, of course, increasing your range, has a lot of sustain. But the Vex comes out in the mid lane. So Vex Ahri is not a matchup you see too often. And I'm not really quite sure who wins that matchup. I would imagine that if Ahri has ultimate, Ahri wins the matchup. And if she doesn't, it could possibly go over in Vex's direction. But we're going to see the top laner here for the side of Terminal Hairlines, which means that Sync Universe selecting to counterpick their top side. And the Renekton pick. So one of the safer top picks for the side of Terminal Hairlines. I like the Renekton pick here. Although their team fight really doesn't have too much of an identity, right? You know, they kind of have some mediocre engage. Not mediocre. You know, Vex Shinjao is not bad, but they don't really have the long range go button except for the Vex. And the Milio ultimate gets you out of the Vex sphere. And so they're going to elect to go the Dr. Mundo. And the game's on pause. Look at that. There's going to be a brief pause here. This is actually in the game, this slight little pause you see. I don't think this is going to be anything too serious. We'll let this go for a few more seconds until I feel like I need to reconnect, but we'll see here. Nope, we're good. Okay, so just some lag. So pretty standard starts. Nothing too aggressive. Teams are electing to stay in their own jungles. No more invades by Chubb here. So we do have them starting on opposite sides though, and Spammer does not have any deep, or he does have deep vision on those Raptors. Shout out to my wife. Brought me pizza just now. She's the real G. Get yourselves a wife that brings you food while you cast games. You know what I mean? Meanwhile, on the top side, nothing is happening because it's the most boring lane ever. I'm turning into Horizon now. Okay, I can't be doing this. Knight getting some nice damage down onto Professor Hex. And like I said, does have the... I always forget the name of it. Deathfire Torch? Deathfire Grasp? Regardless, ends up doing a lot of passive damage onto the enemy champion whenever you cast an ability. And I think it's on a short cooldown. But these lanes are going to be pretty standard. We're going to see some pretty boring lanes for the majority of this early game. You know, these champion kits, outside of Knight Spammer, don't really have too much burst damage pre-6. Spammer is in that top river, but he is not going to go for any sort of gank here. So Professor Hex, as long as he doesn't walk too far forward, he gets the charm, and he's just going to die here. That's first blood over to Knight on the Ahri. And like we called out earlier in Champ Select, the Pantheon Ahri combo is just really disgusting. Plenty of burst damage, and it's easy to set up. You get as soon as you land that taunt, that charm rather, it's almost certainly a kill. And Spammer just showing why him and Knight play so well together. But Chubb is in the spot lane. Let's see what they can do here. Mateo gets exhausted. Let's see if he can actually get out of here. Is able to dodge both the dash or the knockup and the stun, or sorry, the Q, but ends up falling anyways to zone. Flash and exhaust burnt for Shupei. Flash burnt for Chubb. And in return, Shafus uses the heal and both summers down for Mateo. So a great play by the side of Terminal Hairlines, but it does come at the cost of quite a few summoners, but they're going to be more than happy with that. And so a great return play by them. No, Inodial, not Scorch, unless they change the name. Scorch is a secondary. Scorch is a secondary summoner. For those of you who don't know, I am streaming on 2 platforms. I'm streaming on my own Twitch, and I'm also streaming on the TLS Discord channel. So if I talk to someone who you do not see in your chat, that's because they are in my other stream. There is a patch that introduced a lot of new abilities into the game. Whereas Ari would have taken Electrocute probably last patch. Now it takes the Deathfire Torch or Deathfire Grasp. Whatever they call it, I haven't checked. These are new abilities that not too familiar with them. And I'm already going to get roasted by everyone in the Discord once I finish casting. Oh, you're a caster. Why don't you know the name of all the abilities? Hermie with some early harassment onto Empyrean, knowing that he's not 6, so he can't really respond easily with that ultimate to just get his health back up. So, going to push the lane in here. I would imagine that he's not going to go back for a while, though. He wants to try and get more items for the Black Cleaver, which I would feel like is going to be his first item. Zones the spot side. Trading with Mateo, who's going to dodge the Braum Q, but Knight is here trying to get the taunt onto Zones, who just barely gets in front of the Braum shield. And Shupei ends up actually body blocking that taunt. So a flash forced out by Knight, by Chubb, who ends up actually rotating down as well. But Spammer's already on the Dragon, so unless Chubb gets a really sick steal, this should be a Dragon going over to the side of Sync Universe. Chubb's looking like he wants to do something here. He's going to go for the steal. He's going to try to at least. And doesn't end up getting it, but Spammer might fall here. Shupei and Chubb on top of Spammer right now, trying to get some damage. Zones does damage over the wall, but waited just a bit because he didn't want Spammer to be able to jump over the wall and execute him. And that's 2 kills over to the side of Terminal Hairlines, so they're going to feel really good about that play. They end up losing the Dragon, but 2 kills in this early game is going to feel very good. Especially when the kills are going over to your Vex and onto Smolder, who is your late game, assurance, essentially. And so I'm just curious what Zones plans on building moving forward. I would imagine the Essence Reaver will be first, but I could be wrong. I don't know if the build has changed in the new patch. And Hermie doing some excellent damage onto Empyrean, catches him, off guard, and ends up getting a kill of his own in the 1v1. And I feel like Empyrean wasn't aware that Hermie was just kind of waiting in the bushes there. Didn't really know, that he had all of his cooldowns available. And even though he doesn't have Ignite, just ends up getting the kill by virtue of Empyrean being a level down and really having no defensive items. It's all health. So a great play, great heads-up play by Hermie. And he's going to get a nice lead in this lane. It's going to be well needed, especially against the Mundo, who eventually is just going to be unkillable if you don't get early advantages. Looking back towards the bot side here, Zones, as his name would suggest, is zoning off both Shafus and Mateo. They're going to be able to collapse this wave, but there's no objective really for them to take. So Spammer's here, though. He's looking like he wants to come down and start a party. And it's going to end up forcing the flash out by Shupei. So it doesn't look like anyone's going to fall at the end of the day.
Nice try.
But I like the idea. Sync Universe had a great play in their heads mocked up. I feel like if Shupei didn't have flash, you would have had a dead mustached man there, but just able to barely get out of there. Zones looking like he wants to push the wave back off so he can reset. He's got no mana, so not really a good place to be when you are playing as a Smolder. But Professor Hex, with that earlier kill, is looking like he is more than happy to play against Knight in this mid lane, doing some damage and keeping him off the tower himself. Junglers, Chubb has a CS lead. This is much different than what happened in our last game. It felt like Spammer not only had more ganks under his belt, but also just had like a permanent 20 CS lead the entire game. Something else that's interesting, Chubb is electing for the Dusk and Dawn as the first item. So maybe that syncs with the passive fairly well. I'm not really too sure how the item interaction works there, but an interesting build nonetheless. I wonder what the second item will be to follow that off. Maybe Spear of Shojin, but I could be wrong. Spammer looking at this top side. He looks like he wants to cause some harm to Hermie. Hermie ends up using the dash to go in and already use the stun. So unless he gets a nice empowered Q, he's going to probably die here, but Hermie is looking like he wants to try to chase down Empyrean Fish. Empyrean has to use his flash to get out of there, and Spammer ends up getting the kill. So Hermie, a nice attempt by him, but just doesn't have enough tools in the toolbox to be able to get out of that fight. And Spammer, showing what he's made of, gets a kill in that top side. And so he's going to go up just slightly in this jungle matchup off of that kill, but great play all the way around by the side of Sync Universe. Empyrean does end up burning his ghost, rather. Sorry, I said flash. Burns his ghost, but he'll be more than happy to take that for the kill trade. Hermie does, does end up getting the Eclipse, which is, going to cause some more max health damage. But as soon as Empyrean gets armor, that's going to be very, very difficult to actually burn through his health. That being said, we got some damage going down onto Spammer in this bot side jungle. They're completely dedicated to diving. Professor Hex is going to get a kill onto Spammer. Meanwhile, it's looking like a whole lot of other action is going down here still. But Chubb zones Professor Hex and Shupei are end up going to back off after getting the kill onto Spammer. A great play by them, and that's going to net them the dragon as well. And so for the first time in the series, it seems like Terminal Hairlines has a really nice game plan drafted out. And they're in the lead. They're in the driver's seat. They're a solid 1,000 gold lead, and now they've got their first dragon on the board. You're feeling very good if you're on this Terminal Hairlines team in this game too. Chubb does end up getting jumped on in this dragon pit. He's gonna have to be careful here. But Professor Hex does end up getting the kill onto Shafus, and it's a trade of kills of one for each, and it ends up getting 2 kills over to Spammer. So Spammer ends up getting his own double kill. And it just felt like a fight for no reason for the side of Terminal Hairlines. If you had the dragon, there's no reason to try and be a hero. Just let Chubb fall. They did not have to engage there. And it just feels like a giant mistake. You kind of gave away your lead despite giving the dragon. They're still ahead, but not nearly what they were before. 2 kills going over to Spammer is going to be a problem going into this mid game. I kind of want to see how that happened. It doesn't seem like there's going to be too much that's going to go on. So let's go ahead and do a quick replay. We'll do a quick replay. Okay, we'll just do a quick replay. So dragon falls here. And very quickly after, I feel like Zones can just run away here. Or at least Professor Hex and Shupei can run away. And yet they just stay to auto-attack, but they're not auto-attacking anyone that actually is in threat of dying. And so Zones ends up falling, or barely getting away, I believe. He flashes here. Yeah, he does. So, seems just like, So an overstay by the side of Terminal Hairlines ends up resulting in 2 kills, but at least they get the dragon out of it. And they're still up 1,000 gold. They've got a lead in the top side. They've got a lead in the mid lane. Lead in the bot side. They're really the only lane where they're not ahead of is, no surprise, in the jungle. Just by virtue of Spammer getting those 2 kills. But he's back. And Zones and Shupei may have overstayed their hand. Shupei's going to get jumped on, but he's got the shield up, so he's going to take very little damage from Mateo on the follow-up. Zones ends up throwing out his ultimate just to wave clear at this point. Doesn't land on anyone, so there's no healing to be had. Or damage, rather. And Hermie on this top side going to get multiple plates. Might even be able to get this tower if he just keeps hitting it. But I believe he should, and rightfully does, back off just so you don't risk over pushing the lane, and then Chubb basically gets a bunch of free kills on you while you're trying to push. But Chubb acts like he's going away. He totally faked out. He killed the ward and ran topside so that the fading vision actually showed him. But he's not going to end up doing anything on the top side. Meanwhile, Professor Hex is getting jumped on in the mid lane and will fall to a 3-man gank by Shafus, Knight, and Spammer. Meanwhile, on the top side, Chubb and Hermie trying to get something done. Spammer ends up jumping in to try to get some damage on Hermie, but Hermie is healing for too much. And they're going to end up getting the double heal kill here. Getting both kills over to Chubb is going to feel really good. A double kill for him. And a giant mistake made by Spammer. I feel like he didn't realize that the turret was already dead by the time he jumped in there with his ultimate. And both of them just get immediately squashed. And so the double kill goes over to Chubb, and that's another nearly 400 gold getting gifted over to the side of Terminal Hairlines, and now they're sitting at a nice 2,000 gold lead. So double the gold lead off that play. They get the top tower as well. Terminal Hairlines, man, they're putting on a show this game. They really are showing that they do not want to lose. They want to bring this to 3 games.
Better duck. Heads up.
Just took a brief pause there. Back to casting we go. Zones is going to end up taking this tower on the bot side. Or at least is posturing like he wants to. They're clearing the waves, so should end up taking the tower. So that's going to be 2 towers for the side of Terminal Hairline. It's going to increase their gold lead by even more, nearing 3,000. So a very controlled, slow... I shouldn't say slow. It's slower than it was in the first game. Game plan by the side of Terminal Hairlines really showing that they are confident in this game too. A lot of pings coming out from both teams onto this dragon, so I anticipate we will see a nice fight in 20 seconds. Meanwhile, on the top side, Hermie showing what he's made of with the Renekton. He's got a lot of the Dominus stacks. He's trying to get some more damage onto Empyrean. But Empyrean did pop the ultimate, so he's going to start healing a lot. And Hermie with the flash. Some aggression from him, trying to get some surprise burst damage onto Empyrean, but it's just not going to be enough. He's just going to stay up here and push, I would imagine. His TP isn't up for, I think that's 20 seconds. So as long as the fight is held off until then, he can help. But he is pushing that top side, so we probably will not see Empyrean or Hermie in this fight. Meanwhile, on the bot side, Chubb, the entire team, diving onto Spammer, trying to take him out before the dragon even starts. An excellent engage by Chubb. They end up getting on top of Mateo, who almost falls. Shafus having to run away for it to save his life. And Professor Hex is going to go in here with his ultimate, trying to get a kill on Mateo. Ends up having to flash to avoid the charm by Knight back under the tower. But regardless, a great set of plays and events. Can Knight get the return kill here? And he does with the sick ultimate with the comeback on the Q. Ends up getting the kill on Professor Hex, so does get a kill for his own, but doesn't matter. The dragon goes the way of Terminal Hairlines. And yeah, a great engage by the side of Terminal Hairlines on that bot side. Ends up netting them a kill onto Spammer almost immediately. Mateo and Knight forced to get out of there just by virtue of getting bursted down so quickly. And Hermie and the top side creating so much pressure that you're really forced, despite the fact that Empyrean had the teleport, he can't come down and help. And so, Terminal Hairlines walk away with the win there. and the dragon. So one more dragon, and they'll be on Soul Point. Whole lot of nothing going on. Knight does land the charm onto Professor X, but not going to result in much of anything at all. Professor X needs to be careful here. Knight does have the ultimate available, and Spammer is just ulted in, so is he just going to die here for like nothing? Okay, that was very confusing. I'm not really too sure what just happened there. Can we do some Hans in the chat? Drop a Han? That was very confusing. Meanwhile, in the mid lane, Zone's trying to clear off this wave and ends up almost hitting Shafuz with that W. I feel like Shafuz is like his heels were getting hit by that bubble. That being said, Herald doesn't end up falling and is summoned by the side of Terminal Hairlines. So another objective going over to them, as well as this mid turret does not fall. Barely any health there. It's got, let's see here. It's got 60 HP. Should fall soon here, so long as Zunes and Chapey do push out this wave. Renekton is looking like he wants to flank, and so does Chubb. Let's see what happens here. Both players going to flank. Hermie popping the Dominus, trying to get on top of Shafuz, who he does. Ends up getting stunned up and dies, so not only does the tower fall, but Shafuz does as well. Meanwhile, Empyrean Fish is here. He's ultimate. He uses his ultimate. He's trying to get into the faces of Terminal Hairlines to try to see if he can do any damage, and ends up doing some damage, but is going to fall himself. Stunned up is Hermie, trying to get out of there, but here is Spammer doing a lot of return damage, but it's just too little too late. He ends up falling himself. And nearly every member besides Knight falls in this mid lane. And that's going to be a few shutdowns going over to the side of Terminal Hairlines. And they're going to get this mid tower as well. A great team fight by them. And a bit of desperation by the side of Sync Universe, who thought they had the power to be able to just face tank a lot of the damage on the side of Terminal Hairlines. And they just don't. Empyrean has like, it feels like without Heartsteel, has no damage of his own. He opted to rush the Warmogs and is now, I would assume, building Heartsteel. But Smolder is looking absolutely huge. Spammer pinging Smolder, rightfully so. 550 gold bounty, 4-0-5. Zones showing what he's made of. And he's going to be scaling into infinity on this champion. He's looking really good. Let's go ahead and check out his stacks. He's got 216, so he's almost on the threshold of being an insane powerhouse in these team fights. Gonna be able to get those executions fairly quickly if the members of Sync Universe fall low at any point during those team fights. But Mateo seemingly struggling in this fight. You know, 0-3-2, or in this game, 0-3-2 is down about 30 CS. Really only has the Essence Reaver completed. Meanwhile, Smolder looking like he almost has 3 items completed. So Zone's just putting on a show. Mateo, the only good thing here is that they are the same level. So the stat difference just based on levels is not going to be as apparent. Chapey does end up getting taunted. But the return onto Spammer is there. The stun and the knockup is here. Professor Hex and Zones are here with the damage. Zones on a killing spree. And without Spammer alive, my only thought would be you either reset and keep going, or you go to Baron. And it doesn't really seem like they want to go to Baron. Maybe they feel like it's a little too risky at this point. All the members on the side of Sync Universe are up. So, you know, your Baron isn't really that fast also with these champions. You don't really take Baron all that quickly. They're just going to elect for the 3rd Dragon. Place them at Dragon Soul. The much safer route in my opinion. The right choice in my opinion. And now, Sync Universe. For the first time, seemingly since their very first game in the league, is on the back foot. And, you know, this is certainly a team that knows how to play from behind. They play as a solid unit. They have very good shot calling. They have a very good game plan. I feel like the game is on Terminal Hairlines to lose. They have the scaling they need. They have the objectives. But can they close out? You know, and that's the real question here. Can they actually get the Dragon Soul? Can they utilize and protect zones correctly? They've got to create space for them so they can really do what they need to do in these team fights, lay down the damage onto the front line. And it just only time will tell. Hermie doing some damage on a Knight. Is then going to pop the Dominus as well. So trying to run down Knight, ends up dodging the taunt, or the charm rather. A flash by Hermie to try to get the return kill. But meanwhile, on the top side, sorry everyone, Baron was getting taken under my nose. And Zones ends up getting the kill onto the Baron, takes the Baron, but Spammer, trying to save the day, ults into his death. And unbeknownst to me, and rightfully so, when you've got Knight in the bot side, Spammer nowhere to be seen, you go for that dragon. They do, and they walk away with the buff. So, what can they do with it? That's another big question. Are they gonna be able to take any of these tier 2 towers, possibly an inhibitor, and really set themselves up for an easy Dragon Soul? Or is it just going to be used to push out waves and play safely until that dragon spawns? Something should be said about Hermie. Hermie is creating some great pressure. Virtually has been this entire game. He's constantly pulling the side laners out. He's constantly forcing multiple members on the side of Sync Universe to respond. And he's getting kills in these 2v1 and 1v2 situations. 150 gold bounty to his name, so it's very good to see. Spammer and Empyrean Fish are both top side, so this is going to be an easy tower take by the side of Terminal Hairlines, utilizing that Baron correctly. And I feel like they realize that Spammer still is at the top side, and so is Empyrean Fish, and so they want to kind of keep this going as long as they can. But now Spammer is back, and he's got his ultimate. Let's see what he can do. He's got his ultimate up in like 5 seconds. Are they going to wait for it, or are they just going to dive in now? He flashes over and stuns Zones. Zones is dead. This should be a good team fight for Sync Universe to take. Chubb is on the back foot trying to back off, but immediately does a great damage on Mateo, who has to flash out. Chubb is on the offensive. He does so much damage. Does he have his ultimate still? I believe he doesn't, but he gets up getting 2 kills. A ton of damage by Chubb. Unexpectedly ends up getting 2 kills, but started off like a good play. On the side of Sync Universe is quirkily turned around, and Hermie himself almost gets the kill in the dive, but is forced out. Knight, I don't feel like, doesn't have the mana to be able to chase him down. But the mid tower does end up falling still. And that's 3 kills for 2. And so at the end of the day, you are happy with all the objectives you took by the side of Terminal Hairlines, but I feel like a great counterplay by Sync Universe, although I really don't feel like they expected Chubb to be able to do so much damage on the Xin Zhao, who, he's got that Dusk and Dawn. I would imagine that's a big reason why it felt like there was so much burst damage that came out, combined with the Sundered Sky there. I know that item makes your next attack crit. Because he immediately blew up Mateo. As soon as he popped that shield, that spell shield, he almost died immediately. Okay. Dragon in 25 seconds. Sync Universe, what are you going to do? How are you going to answer this objective setup? Are you just going to give over this Dragon Soul? It's fire. It's a fire Dragon Soul onto Zones. It's one of the scariest dragons to have on Smolder, and it really feels like, they might just be handshaking this because the dragon is up, but they are all in what I would consider the correct position. You really need to push from that mid wave because you don't have any vision control, and let's see what happens here. Mateo is still safe. Empyrean Fish is taking most of the damage, but the soul point He's going to immediately go over to Chubb, and they want to fight. Let's see what they can do. Terminal Hairlines dives in. Professor Hex quickly getting the kill. Mateo, who's out of position. And now Imperial Fish is going to fall soon thereafter. Hermie gets the kill onto the Mundo, who's most definitely not going where he pleases. Falls soon thereafter. Knight is looking like he wants to get some kind of advantage onto Shupei, who ends up not falling or taking that much damage. And this looks like the final dash into their base as Terminal Hairlines is trying to put the winning touches on this game. Spammer is going to fall here to Zones, who is just absolutely popping off. He's doing so much damage here. And this should be the end of the game, folks. Towers are falling on the side of Sync Universe. And for the first game, for the first time, it's really looking like a strong showing by the side of Terminal Hairlines. It's going to even this series 1-1. And we are currently in band. So, Echo band for the side of Terminal Hairlines. That is the same band that we saw in the last game, followed by the Viego. So far, same bands as the last game. Viego band on the side of Sync Universe. So, along with the Rumble. The M-Base said to follow suit. Are we going to see the Aphelios band? And we do. So, same bands as last series. A lot of the, the safer picks, I would say, are taken off the board. Already gone. Ash is gone. Jinx gone. Syndra first pick on Terminal Hairlines. I am sorry. That is a sin counter. That is one of my big no-nos. I think Syndra first counter, or first pick. Matrix disagrees with me on this one. But that is an absolute big no-no in my book. There are too many counters to this champion that you can just absolutely get booty blasted with. I do not like that first pick at all. The Seraphine Kaisa pick on the side of Sync Universe is pretty standard, pretty safe. And, I think Seraphine is just so strong right now with the Q buffs. Allowing your Q to do max damage in the entire radius is just really disgusting. Terminal Hairlines, making this initial huge mistake in my opinion with the Syndra first pick, but they're going to follow up with the Nautilus to have some hard engage onto the Kaisa, some lockdown onto the Seraphine. Just have a go button in general is always helpful. If you have a Syndra, you need someone in front of you locking them down to make your stun just that much easier, your whole burst combo that much easier to land. Here's the thing. Sync Universe has so many champions they can play in this matchup. I understand that Xerath is not up, right? Xerath is good in Syndra, but there are plenty of other good champions. There's Fizz. Irelia is a great champion and would be really good with Sync Universe's team comp already. I feel like an Irelia pick here is so sick, especially against Nefiri. It's really good into both of these champions. But the question is, can Knight pilot it? Does Knight know how to pilot the Irelia, rather, not Anivia. Irelia is what I meant to say. Kane pick in the jungle. Okay, so a little bit of assassin for assassin on the side of Sync Universe, trying to match up against the Nefiri jungle. I would assume it's a Nefiri jungle. I know that Nefiri can go top lane, so it is a little bit of a pivot. I just don't really anticipate that out of these two teams. Doesn't seem like something that Hermie would play, but maybe he does. Maybe there's something that I'm unaware of. I kind of want to check the op.ggs here for the side of Terminal Enters. And Chubb does not have, at least in his total scorecard, a lot of games on the Nefiri. But neither does Hermie. So it's probably going to go to the jungle. That being said, we're through the bans. Aatrox and Gwen bans, so they definitely anticipate on the side of Sync Universe that Nefiri is going to go in the jungle. The return bans are going to be Fiora and, let's see here. So really just strong duelists that are being banned out from both sides. The Mel. Okay, so you ban the Mel because you don't want Syndra playing against the Mel. That's fine. There's still plenty of answers here. Fizz is a good answer. Irelia is a good answer. Morgana is not horrible, although I doubt it would ever be a Morgana. You can even go something really, AD heavy that has some dashes. Yasuo's not bad. The orange picked up for Sync Universe, so indicating that they are also going to have plenty of scaling on their team. But I wonder if Terminal Hairlines takes advantage of the Ornn pick. There are plenty of good champions into Ornn. Mordekaiser's great into it. The brand coming out for the side of Terminal Hairlines. Interesting. Is this going to be a brand top lane or a brand mid against... Or sorry, is this going to be a brand top lane? Or is this going to be a brand Nautilus bot lane with no AD carry? Or is it a brand mid lane, Syndra Nautilus bot lane, and it was just a ruse the whole time? And then I have to take away the Sin counter. Don't make me remove the Sin counter. That's embarrassing. Okay, so the Kled top. So either Brand or Syndra are going bot. Most likely it's going to be Brand. Brand is just a better bot laner all around. He is very high in the win rate in the tier list right now for bot lane. Has a really good win rate. The Alistar. Okay, so the Seraphine mid lane looks like Knight momentarily disconnected, but it's not going to result in too much as we get into the game here. No early positioning plays. It looks like Spammer's just going to opt over to his Wolves. Or is he? He's going over the wall. You might get some early vision onto this top side. So Hermie dropping his ward in this top river bush. The same thing with Spammers. So both junglers have a pretty decent idea of where they could start. Or sorry, Terminal Hairlines has an idea of where Spammer is going to start on the side of Sync Universe, but I don't believe that Sync Universe is going to have an idea of where Chubb is starting. So at the beginning of the game, Terminal Hairlines does have a slight advantage in terms of how they can play the game. They have the advantage of information in this early minute. This top lane is going to be pretty interesting for Empyrean. I think that if Empyrean Fish plays this very safely, he's not going to be in too much trouble against Hermie, but Hermie has the Ignite, has the ability to just go absolutely insano mode in this matchup if he plays it correctly. So we're just going to have to see what he can do here, but the return damage of Empyrean is not going to be existent for the first half of the game, I would imagine. Especially once Hermie gets the Black Cleaver, it's going to be really disgusting. The amount of burst damage he's going to be able to do onto Empyrean, or really sustained damage, right? He's got the Conqueror. Is going to be really crazy. Combine that with the passive that he gets with Skarl, and it's just going to be a very hard sustained fight for Empyrean to take. So he's really going to have to depend on either just kind of playing under towers, weak side William, or relying on Spammer to make his rounds up to that top side. As predicted, Zones is going to create a lot of pressure in this early game. Just kind of lands pillar, and then you just E off the wave, and it just spreads that burn to everyone in the lane. Professor Hex has the mana advantage here. Knight has to be careful. If Professor Hex lands a combo, it's going to be some serious damage. Doesn't have Ignite, though, interestingly. I feel like that might have been a missed opportunity, because it is a lot of damage. But Knight definitely taking the worst part of that trade, and this is going to be pretty much how that lane's going to go for nearly the entire game, unless Spammer makes a difference. Spammer is going to be the difference maker in these lanes. If he just leaves them to their own fruition, Hermie and Professor Hex should have the better hand. Empyrean Fish does have the health lead in this matchup right now, but he is low on mana. So Mateo ends up getting grabbed and comboed by the brand, so he's going to take a lot of damage here. Has to actually end up flashing out. Shafus is trying to do something to return some of that damage, but Mateo is in an awful spot here. He pretty much has to back. If he doesn't, he's going to get flash Q'd on, and as I say that, the flash Q completely misses. Hermie trying to do some damage on Empyrean Fish, ends up dropping the Ignite. Let's see what he can do here. I don't think it should end up resulting in a kill, but it is going to push Empyrean off the wave, and that's going to be a drop of EXP as well, so nearly 10 CS down already at 4 minutes into the game is not going to feel good at all. But that's pretty much going to be the story, so long as these lanes do not have a sufficient amount of help. And it's really not like Spammer can help much, right? You're on Kayn, a champion that really wants to be farming as much as you can. Meanwhile, on the bot side, Chubb with an excellent dive onto the bot side of Sync Universe. Zones with some... Oh, that is a lot of turret damage. Forgot about that update, did you, bud? Ends up dying to the tower, but it won't be a big deal because it is an execute, so that's not a kill over to the side of Sync Universe. It's just a quick reset. But some excellent tower juggling for the side of Terminal Hairlines, and that's in a great kill for them. Some good turret juggling, and Chubb walks away with the kill. The first blood, even. So that's going to feel really good as the jungler. And so Terminal Hairlines comes out swinging in this game 3, playing to the advantages that we said that they had in this draft. They had the early game advantage. They really need to take advantage of that. Get as many kills as they can as quickly as possible. They need to be setting up for these objectives, diving towers with Chubb, using a lot of their range, a lot of their burst capabilities to take down the members of Sync Universe. And if they don't do that, that's going to be Sync Universe's ticket back into this game. Not that they're out of the game, but, you know, 1,200 gold down at 5.5 minutes is nothing to be joked about. Hermie is just forcing Empyrean off this wave. It's so gross. Professor Hex is winning this matchup, and I can't emphasize it enough. I feel like it was such a missed opportunity for Knight to draft something that actually plays very well into the Syndra. But they're going to do a dive down up on this top side. It's going to be very easy. Hermie took the tower shots, but he has the scuttle or the passive. Or no, he doesn't. Didn't have the passive, but it didn't even matter. Chubb just did so much burst damage along with Hermie, who did the heal cut himself with the bear trap on a rope. And that's a dead Empyrean fish in the top side. And yeah, like I said, this is going to be a rough lane phase for Sync Universe with these champions picked. You know, it really does feel like it's all 4 winning lanes drafted by the side of Sync Universe in this early game. And, you know, what we said was, you know, there has to be a lot of defensive play. But how do you do defensive play when you're just dying under your tower? It's happened twice now for the side of Sync Universe. And seemingly no answer by Spammer. And it's like, can he even answer? Chubb seemingly getting the better of him. You know, he is roughly 10 farm down, but I'll take a kill and an assist any day to get my lanes ahead for 10 farm. And I feel like if you're running this team comp, you do want to be drafting a jungler that does have some better early game prio, just to be able to assist your lanes. But it was picked 3rd in the draft order. Or was it 4th? It might have been... No, I believe it was 3rd. Yep. Because, because we saw the support last with the top ladder. So I feel like you should have gone more of an early game champion if this was your draft makeup earlier on. But we still haven't seen much of anything. It's still only 8 minutes into the game. It's still only 2-0. The game's not over at all. Chubb looking like he wants to do more down in this bot side. But they might not be aware that there's already some vision on this bot side. But Shafus has to flash out and barely gets out of there. Taking a lot of burn damage from zones. Who just barely gets out by the hair on his chin. And a nice answer by Spammer to keep them from further chasing. But seemingly Chubb is just everywhere this game. The dragon does fall over to the side of Sync Universe. I know we didn't really catch that earlier on. But that is a good positive advantage to have on the side of Sync Universe. With this team comp, you are scaling as hard as possible. So you're trying to get all these objectives when you can. Dragon stacking is going to be the way that you win the game, along with playing with the ornaments. Your champions are very strong. The more that this game gets dragged on, Spammer trying to get at least 2 grubs. Ends up getting the 1, so he's going to prevent Chubb from getting any more. Gets stunned up and should fall here to the damage of Professor Hex. Syndra doing a lot of burst there. Hermie, meanwhile, is on Empyrean Fish, who is going to get ulted by Professor Hex and ends up falling there. Meanwhile, the fight is turned back onto the mid lane. A stun falls into Chafus, who gets ulted by Chubb, and that's going to be a double kill for Syndra. And I'm going to tell you this right now. Oh, and a nice ultimate by Knight is going to end up in a shutdown by him onto Chubb. So that's actually a great play by Knight. Shout out to him. Great ultimate timing. He waited exactly for Chubb to appear out of the ultimate. Gets up, dragged up into the tower. That's 561 gold going over into his pockets. So not a horrible play. Spammer is here. He's trying to get a kill on Professor X. He should be able to. Unless he gets a perfect stun. Very nice job of Professor Hex. Able to deny that gank. What I was saying earlier, though, is Professor Hex getting 2 kills in this mid matchup, nearly 30 farm ahead, is going to be abysmal for Knight. Knight has no MR. I'm telling you right now, if Professor Hex gets his item, gets back into lane, he has the ability to one-shot Knight. It's going to be absolutely disgusting. All right. Game state. 4K gold lead over to the side of Terminal Hairlines, looking to take their first win of the league. First game or second one of the series, netting them this match win over Sync Universe, one of our newer and upcoming teams who already has a win on the board in terms of the league standings. Putting both of these teams, well, Sync Universe at 1-1, but Terminal Hairlines would be 1-0. Hermie gets knocked up with the bubble, but is just going to turn around and walk his way out of there. And the dragon up, you already have Chubb on top of it. So that's going to be the first dragon going over to the side of Terminal Hairlines. Looking very good if you're on their team. Zones is getting jumped on by Mateo, but we'll get the brand combo. The question is it enough? And it's not. Mateo getting a 1-for-1 kill, fully understanding what he needed to do in that matchup. As soon as you see that you land that W onto Brand, you have pretty much free reign to just dive on in. And so long as you dodge the stun, you're pretty much going to win that matchup almost every single time. Meanwhile, Spammer on top of Chubb, but Chubb has his damage mitigation. And guess who's also there? It's Professor Hex. But Seraphine's there at least to pick up the kill on the Chubb. So it's going to be a 1-for-1, jungler for jungler. And I feel like if you're on the side of Sync Universe, you're more than happy to take that trade. That being said, Professor Hex is looking very scary. Does have the upgraded boots, the Spell Slinger's shoes, along with the Luden's Echo. And he's going to be doing some serious burst damage onto pretty much anyone except for Empyrean, should they meet up. And even Empyrean is going to get bursted if he goes against the Syndra because he's got no MR. And it's a scary situation to be. Knight looking like he wants to get the Blackfire Torch for the first item. Is Inodial right? Was it Scorched the entire time? And I was wrong. If it's Scorched, would they rename Scorch? Or is it not called Scorch anymore? Anyways, these are questions that I ask myself that I can't answer because I don't have access to Twitch chat during the games, except on my own channel. So if you actually, not saying to go to my channel, but that's actually where I could see your channel. That being said, Hermie, Empyrean Fish. Empyrean, seemingly with all the armor items that he has constructed, has pretty much negated this lane. So Hermie does not have the same trading power that he used to have. Maybe he will once he gets Black Cleaver, but until then, it's pretty much a wash in that top side. Meanwhile, in the bot lane, Zones is putting on the hurt on Mateo. It really does feel like this, you know, these last 2 games of the series, that Zones, whether that's by virtue of just having a better champion or just by knowing, you know, how to lane correctly in this matchup, is just has Mateo's number, which is quite interesting because Mateo was seemingly popping off every single game. In their first series against Serial Enters, Hex just got caught, though. It looks like he might be going down here pretty soon. And a 651 gold shutdown onto Spammer. That's the last person you want the gold going on to. Chubb gets jumped onto, and it looks like it might even be a double if he's able to get the dash knockup, but he doesn't. Zones ends up getting the return kill there. And so that's a 1-for-1 trade mid laner for jungler. Chubb wants more. Knight is seemingly stuck in the middle of 3 members, and he's going to get stunned up and falls here to Zones. So that's 2 kills over to Zones, and ends up being a great trade by Terminal Hairlines. We're gonna be very happy with that play. But meanwhile, in the mid lane, Mateo's trying to get some plates, try to get some gold back for their advantage. A TP is coming out from Syndra. What can he do? Shafus absolutely gets demolished by the stun from Syndra. Not seemingly paying attention or noticing the TP coming from behind them. A great TP from Professor Hex ends up netting them a kill. And should net them, or him, another. That's going to be. Oh my gosh, it's so much burst damage. Yeah, Syndra is going to be a giant problem in this game. There's virtually no damage mitigation by the side of Empyrean. I mean, by the side of Sync Universe. You know, they've got the healing. They've got the healing, right? But they don't really have... They have a slight shielding, but they really don't have the big shields that you need to stop Syndra from just absolutely blowing you up. And Spammer just gets caught out standing in the wrong place at the wrong time. Another kill goes over to I believe it was Chubb. And with Chubb and Professor Hex looking this strong, it's very scary for the side of Sync Universe. Shout out to, you know, Terminal Hairlines doing what their comp is designed to do, getting a lot of early game advantages, pushing their lead, pushing their tempo. They're getting the Rift Herald now, which is going to most certainly result in another tower take. Mateo needs to be careful here. He's going to get caught out by both of them, and he just gets absolutely blown up. Should have probably gone around the wall, but wasn't able to. Empyrean ends up getting an ult in there, and they're trying to turn this around, and they do. Zones get shut down by Empyrean, so a great return play by them, but Spammer will soon there fall by Professor Hex, but Professor Hex is going to fall himself, and now, at the end of the day, all said and done, an ace by the side of Terminal Hairlines, who ends up just doing so much burst damage in the retaliation by the side of Sync Universe, and it just wasn't enough. Let's go ahead and watch the replay while they go ahead and get this dragon. So what ends up being, you know, a fight that was started by Hairlines is immediately turned on to by Sync Universe, but it just isn't enough. There just isn't enough damage. Knight ends up falling by Chubb, who just stepped aside and took no damage. He's able to use his ultimate to get back on Shafus, who takes a lot of damage from Chubb diving on the tower, and you just have Shapu, that's going to be memed on. Chape and Hermie, who just dive and end up getting a ton of damage. Terminal Hairlines walking away with the better play there. And they do end up getting the dragon. So, a great play all around by Terminal Hairlines. You know, a great attempt by the side of Sync Universe, who got a few knockups, you know, a lot of damage by Knight, but it just wasn't enough. They don't have the overwhelming damage to actually burst down any of the members, you know, or at least multiple members of Terminal Hairlines in time. And so you just allow Chubb or Professor Hex or Hermie, whoever's up, they can just kind of clean house. Knight does elect to grab the Merc Treads, so does have a little bit of a magic shield to stop the burst from Professor Hex on the Syndra. And I'm curious how many stacks of the Splinters Professor Hex has. 102, which means that she is in execute range. The Splinters do allow you to execute people that fall below, I believe it's 15% health. So, with your ultimate, that is. Your ultimate executes if it hits someone when they're below 15% health. Especially on a tank, that is a lot of health that you can execute someone with. And that being said, Empyrean, the only MR he has is those Merc Treads, so does have to be pretty careful there. Herald drop top does end up getting that top tier 3, and it's probably going to end up getting the top tier 2 as well. Professor Hex is on the rafters, trying to get some more burst. Ends up ulting and gets the execution, so what we were just talking about, does end up happening. A lot of burst damage ends up coming out on Empyrean. He falls below that 15% threshold and ends up getting executed because of it. And you know, Terminal Hairlines looking like they want to push on to this tier 2 tower and take it as well, and they are going to. There's really just no answer that Sync Universe has, and it just feels like, you know, the draft is really difficult to execute on if you have to wait until that 34-minute mark before your team really starts to come online. Terminal Hairlines knows this, and they're taking full advantage of it.
Blue team's turret has been destroyed. Red team's turret has been destroyed.
Our number grows. Cutting in. Your funeral. Turn down your volume. I messed up.
Team's turret has been destroyed.
And I just realized that my mic was broken, but we're back here, so we should be good to go. What I was basically saying is that once Spammer, you know, pushed mid, tried to get some advantages in that mid lane, ended up getting caught out and fell, and because of that, you know, because he wasn't really aware of where the enemy jungle was at that time, he ends up falling. It results in the Baron take. You know, and for the first time, seemingly this league for Sync Universe, they feel like they've drafted in a way that's really lost them the game. You know, they drafted too low of damage and too much scaling to the point where all Terminal Enters really needed to, or Terminal Hairline really needed to do, rather, is, you know, draft enough early advantage. And Hermie, looking like he's in a rough position here, is he able to blast cone out? And he isn't, so this might be a caught Hermie here. But they're going to be completely fine with that. They'll trade Dragon for it. But at the same time, it looks like the shutdown does end up going over to Mateo. So some gold in his pockets is going to feel really good. That's one of your late game answers. A lot of your burst damage is coming from Mateo. What I was trying to say is that, you know, it seems like Sync Universe was trying to draft a very safe. They're in a bad spot, actually. Empyrean Universe may have just caught out 3 members. Zones is surely going to fall here if Mateo doesn't get stunned, and he does. So that's 2 members falling by the side of Terminal Hairlines, and might as well call them Terminal Enters. Why were they standing there? all three members are surely going to fall. And the gold lead is still going to be fairly large from the side of Terminal Hairlines, but definitely a lot closer than it was before. Nearly only 6K now as opposed to the 12K that it was earlier. So they've cut the gold lead in half, but Knight may have just bitten off more than he could chew, and he's going to get absolutely blown up by the Syndra. But a great play by Sync Universe, really showing some gall in the face of adversity. Realizing very quickly, hey, we need to pull the trigger. We need to go on this team right now. Now that they're out of position, and they get advantage because of it. They get the 3 kills, nice shutdowns onto their team, and you know they do have the scaling in their hands. They have the scaling advantage, so we're really gonna have to wait and see what they can do with this. Or multiple ornaments are starting to come out. We've got the Ginsu's Rage Blade upgraded, which I believe it's called, Ginsu's Rage Blade Masterwork. It's all just Masterwork items. I remember I believe there was a time when they all had different names, which was pretty cool. But, yeah, the upgraded Ginsu's Rage Blade, the upgraded Axiom Arc, the upgraded Sunfire Cape, an ultimate coming out from Hermie. Let's see what he can do. He's trying to find someone caught out on the side of Sync Universe, and he doesn't. He ends up jumping over the wall, which might have been a mistake. Hermie taking some serious damage. He's going to get knocked up multiple times, but is just barely able to get out of there, even after popping his passive. And so a great return play by the side of Sync Universe kicks them out, and they're able to save face. I think if you're on the side of Terminal Hairlines, you are playing towards this Dragon Soul that's spawning in 2 minutes. That is your main contingency plan to being able to basically end this game soon thereafter. Of course, if you're on the side of Sync Universe, you have a very tough decision to make. Do you fight over this dragon and potentially lose the team fight and end the game immediately after, losing you the series, right? We're in game 3. So they really have to make safe decisions. Or do you just let the soul go over to Terminal Hairlines and pray to God that they don't push and end the game while you're waiting to scale? So a very tough decision to make. One that a lot of teams are not very well versed in making themselves. But Spammer is pulling the trigger and Professor Hex is the target. Let's see if he can get him. And he does fall. So shut down onto Professor Hex. But Spammer is soon there to fall. That means that the jungler is up rather for the side of Terminal Enters and not for the side of Sync Universe. So this should be an easy dragon take. Immediately after, Empyrean Fish does end up falling, but all 3 members get pulled in by Knight. Who ends up getting the kill onto Zones. Okay. So Hermie, Chubb, and Shupei are the only members up against Mateo, Knight, and Shufus. The advantage is still over to the side of Terminal Hairlines, but they're going to go ahead and say, you know what? Let's not stick around. Let's go ahead and reset, get some health. Both sides making the same decision, and I would be very, very surprised if we don't see a dragon fight of these 3 members going against one another. Spammer will be up in time for it, so let's see if they start moving over. And I'm telling you, folks, this may be the game-winning fight. We're just going to have to wait and see. It does feel like there is a slight turn in the air. These team fights are starting to go over, but Spammer may have gotten caught. He's using his movement, his momentum to get out of there. He probably is going to have to flash, and he does, but Hermie is going to be more than happy to waste his ultimate for that. Forces the flash out by Spammer, which means that you're going to be in an advantageous position as the side of Serial Hairlines. Or Terminal Hairlines. There's a Terminal Hairlines and a Serial Enters, and I'm going to get those teams mixed up quite a bit. Probably this entire, almost every single game. We're just going to wait and see what happens here, but Spammer just gets caught out in the woodwork, and because of that, this is going to be an easy dragon take over to the side of Terminal Hairlines. Dragon Soul for them is going to certainly spell disaster. That being said, it is only, I say only as if it's not a lot, it is a 6K gold lead for the side of Terminal Hairlines. They have the winning strategy. They want to turn this soul into a Baron take and then probably aim to end the game shortly thereafter. But Zones is going to get jumped up by Mateo. Let's see if he get the kill here. He just barely does it. He does! The sniper from down under. Mateo gets the snipe but falls himself. A good return play. You're denying the Baron onto at least Zones. But it may not be enough. This Baron is most certainly going to fall to Terminal enters, but a nice hero play from Mateo does net them the kill. And the question becomes, is 6k gold enough to prevent the scaling on the side of Sync Universe? They've got multiple ornaments coming out, which is going to result in a little over 3,000 gold in value. So really, this gold lead is only 3,000 gold. The soul, of course, does add, a roughly 1,500 gold value into the amount of damage per team fight for the side of Terminal Hairlines. So, that being said, roughly a 4,500 gold lead. But you've got the scaling on your side as Sync Universe, and how do you use it is the big question. You need to really protect Mateo as long as possible. You need to be protecting yourself against whoever is diving with you with Hermie, using the Seraphine ultimate onto multiple members when possible. Shafus is here to back up Empyrean, but it's too little too late. Professor Hex has all of the splinters needed to get that execute. And now with your tank off the field, it is looking very rough for Sync Universe. They're going to have to pull out all the stops and try to prevent this, but Hermie is pulling the trigger. Let's see who he can grab. He goes on Mateo almost instantly. Mateo trying to do what he can to get out of there. Shafus is flashing forward to get the health back onto Mateo, who turns the kill. So Chubb is going to kill Knight, but Mateo is going to shut down Hermie. And so it's a 1-for-1 trade. Meanwhile, Spammer has to be extra careful here. Chubb does end up ulting onto him to avoid a lot of the return damage, and Chappé ends up trying to Q onto Spammer, who dodges. So the inhibitor will fall for the side of Sync Universe, and it looks like they're going to take 2. So overall, a winning play for them. But the team fights are starting to look a little bit sketchy. And so Terminal Hairlines is definitely wanting to end this game as quickly as possible. I think if this game goes past the 35-minute mark, it starts to get, or 36-minute mark, rather, it starts to get very sketchy. And, it really does fall on this Elder Dragon. I think if you're on Sync Universe, you're really looking for a team fight before the Elder Dragon starts. You do not want to be in a position where you're forced to flip that soul. Just because I think you're going to be taking a lot of burst damage before that happens. But if you're Terminal Hairlines, you're looking to go right now, because you've got them in a great position. Spammer has to use his ultimate to avoid damage, but should fall here soon after. He does it. He dives over the wall. What's going to happen now? Mateo is dived onto by Hermie, who's trying to get more damage, and he has to flash out. Professor Hex gets a kill. He's on a killing spree, ends up killing Empyrean. So at the end of the day, it's a 1-for-1. Chubb does end up falling, but Empyrean falls. So that's your front line down on the side of Sync Universe, but the jungler's dead on the side of Terminal Hairlines, and they're looking to push in this wave. I surmise they will not be able to do much else than that. 1:50 for this Elder Dragon. Vision advantage clearly going over to Terminal Hairlines on this bot side. And, it makes me wonder, is Terminal Hairlines just going to skip the Elder Dragon and push down mid and end the game? This is a very reasonable decision that they could make. We like to call that the momentum special, mostly because my team did that like 6 times in scrims. But Empyrean here is going to get jumped on in his own base. Where he even is safety, if not in your own base. Hermie using the ultimate very well for them to get behind him, and a great play comes out, but they're on the attack now, and a lot of damage goes on to Hex. If he falls, this is going to be disastrous for them. Spammer getting a shutdown onto Hex. Chubb is already dead. You've got no jungler. Shupei is dead. It's a 2v3, but Sync Universe is turning this around. Hermie's going to fall, and that's an ace for the side of Sync Universe. They've completely prevented this game from turning on its head and pretty much gone, created an even game state for themselves. Combined with the ornaments, I wonder if they're even a little ahead. The team fight started so well, but then they got bottlenecked into that bot lane, or that bot tunnel. And Spammer, with the hero play doing so much burst, jumps onto Professor Hex, avoids a lot of the damage, and ends up getting the Elder Dragon for his team. An awesome turn of events for Sync Universe. The soul on the side of Terminal Hairlines doesn't even matter. And now you're going to have, if they hold off, they're going to have every single member with this Elder Dragon. Do they hold off or they just get it? I don't believe that Spammer was up in time. I don't think they held off. No, they didn't. So Spammer was just barely missed the buff. But 4 members do get it. And man, if you're not getting sweaty foreheads on the side of Terminal Hairlines, I don't know what you're doing. That was a hairline joke. Holy moly. Sync Universe holding off as long as they could, starting to turn these fights around. You know, I called it. I said if this went near 36 minutes, it would be a little dicey. Oh no, say it ain't so. The play here is just going to be so awful. If Sync Universe falls in the trap, it would be so sad. But they're playing this well. They're playing it slow. Sync Universe sniffs out the potential play, and they don't want to fall into the trap that Terminal Hairlines is placing for them. Terminal Hairlines waiting in the rafters with their razors in hand.
Red team's inhibitor has respawned.
A lot of damage going over there onto Spammer. He's going to have to back to reset, but there's nothing on the map, so you really don't care besides Baron. But the reason why you don't care is because your team was already in that top side, so you're pretty much protected. But they do have vision there. It feels like Terminal Hairlines has vision set up really so that they don't get flanked, but they don't really have vision to do any flanking or really take advantage, and they really shouldn't, right? They're fighting against a team with Elder Dragon. What a great game 3, honestly, for Sync Universe to hold on this hard, to come back in that last team fight to get the Elder Dragon is just awesome to see. And Professor Hex is so scary. He's doing so much damage. And he's going to get caught. If Professor Hex dies here, it's going to be absolutely disastrous. And he does. Okay, so Spammer is on the front foot trying to dive into the back line. Zones is going to fall here too from Mateo. The execution comes through, and it just feels like Professor Hex was in the worst place possible. Hermes trying to get a return kill on Mateo, but it just might not be enough. Chubb tries to turn around, but he's going to get blown up. Or is he? Ends up getting the return kill on Mateo, and he might get a return kill on Shafus. Trying to do whatever he can, the absolute hero himself. But he's going to fall here to Spammer. And so 3 kills going to the side of Sync Universe. They're not going to end the game, but they are going to get this Baron. And just an excellent set of plays by Sync Universe to really take advantage of the missteps by Terminal Hairlines. It seemed like Professor Hex did not know or wasn't aware that the whole team was waiting there. Blows the hourglass and just dies soon thereafter. I want to remind folks that at a certain point in this game, Terminal Hairlines was 12,000 gold up. Spammer might be in a bad position. Might have just caster cursed the entire team. Great flash from him. Gets him out of danger. But like I was saying, Terminal Hairlines was 12,000 gold up. And this was at like 28, like 6 minutes with this team comp, right? So it really does show you the power of the scaling team comps if you can just hold on long enough. And, you know, Terminal Hairlines was doing everything in their power to end the game, but it felt like they just mispositioned in that bot near the bot lane right after they took that bot tower. And Spammer and friends just took full advantage of it, and it looks like they're trying to do what they can to catch Professor Hex again. Zones is going to fall here if he doesn't have any answer. The Hourglass is the answer, but Spammer does have Guardian Angel and the ultimate. Let's see if he has a way out. He's going to go on to Chubb to try to heal as best as he can. In return, Chubb is going to jump in and gets the kill on the Spammer, but he's going to fall soon thereafter. Imperial Fish is on the front line, so now it's 3-3. Mateo dies onto Hex. Let's see if he can land a stun and actually get away, and he doesn't. This is a 3-2. The only members surviving are Hermie and Shupei. If you are on Sync Universe, this is your go button. These champions do not do anything to you late game. This is your chance to win. Can they do it? Can Sync Universe make the comeback? Or will Terminal Hairlines answer the call and prevent the 3v2 push? Baron buff on the side of Sync Universe. A knockup comes down from Shupei to prevent Hermie from getting dove on. Is it enough? They've got the towers down. 1 second on zones. Mateo is trying to get the kill, and he does. Ends up going on the base. And that's a win for the side of Sync Universe, coming back in that game from a 12,000 gold deficit. Say it ain't so. Mateo.
Oh.
I have pulled you into the stream. Are you down to give us an interview?
Yeah, I can. My English is bad, but I can.
There's another French. There's so many French players. Awesome, man. Yeah, so stoked to have you in the league. And, you know, you won the player of the series, so congratulations there. Definitely the MVP in my book. You know, so congratulations on your team's second win. I mean, obviously, the big question in everyone's minds is, you know, how were the comms? How was your team able to bounce back from, I don't know if you knew this, nearly a 12,000 gold lead at 26 minutes?
Honestly, I don't really know. Like, we just had to play safe in your base.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, and we just wait like for them to do an error and like pressure them and come back. I don't know.
No, for sure, dude. Like, it really did seem like your team was just waiting for the perfect opportunity. And I think there was a moment where Empyrean and Spammer had a perfect combination with one another where they caught, it might have been Syndra or Brand in that bottom tunnel near the bot lane. Yeah, and it felt like from that moment on, y'all just had their number almost every single team fight. You know, I've also got to ask, you know, during a game like that where you are so far behind, is your team constantly looking for ways to come back in the game? Are you just, like we said earlier, waiting for them to make a mistake? Or is there a driving force or voice behind the team kind of directing you as what to do?
Okay, yeah. We have some difficulty to like plan to how we will come back, but like we said in our comms, like just play safe. We wait for like them to make a mistake and try to cross map. So we have a little difficulty for that, but it will come.
Yeah. Okay, this is a bit of a flaming question, but
Okay.
once they picked Syndra on phase 1,
Yeah.
why was this not immediately countered with one of the many counters that exist? Like, was Irelia ever on the table, or LeBlanc, or does Knight not like to play these champions?
No. It's like Knight wanted to play Seraphine mid, and like we were like we will like brainwash them with like Seraphine. They will think she is support, and we will last pick like the real support.
Yeah, no, during Champ Select, this is something that I was joking around with the stream with, is like, maybe it's just to make them think it's going in support and it's actually mid. And then it ended up being true. And I hated it because I didn't think it'd be good into Syndra. But no, just an awesome game from your entire team. Y'all should be really proud. You're 2-0 now in the league. That must feel incredible. Are there any teams that you're excited to play against next week?
I don't know. I didn't really check the team, but like I'm happy to play every game, and I'm just exciting to play again next week.
Awesome. Yeah. No, we're excited to see your team. Good luck to you all, and thank you for coming on. Is there anything else you wanted to say before we end the interview?
Oh, yeah. Thanks for playing with us, guys. Thanks for welcoming us in the league, and it's nice playing with you.
Yeah, we appreciate it. We love all of the Canadians, all the Frenchmen. Bring more of them.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, and like I said, good luck to your team, and we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah. Thank you.